All right, welcome to Talks on God with my friend David. Great to see you, David.
Good to see you, man.
I got an idea today,
Yeah.
wild and crazy idea,
Oh boy.
and I wanted to get your perspective of how you would engage with somebody through different like different places in life experience as people can be. Because I think God meets us where we're at based on, our ability to perceive he's even God's even there, right? So like
Right.
if somebody is I mean the reality of God, there's no image, there's no you could even say there's no experience as we know it in God's pure reality. But God still shows up for you when you're depressed, right? We're not even trying to think about anything past being in the dumps, right? You're just like, I can't. So my idea was going through like it might be too granular, but for example, and you're gonna go wherever you want anyway.
That's right.
So let's say someone is like in the bottom, the most painful, I would say, places in life like shame, guilt, apathy, grief. I mean, how would God show up? And by that I mean mostly I guess how would God show up, or how would we show up for somebody as God? Either way.
Yeah, I think a huge part of the answer for the dealing with all the problems of life is to move out of the intellect and to the heart. Because when you operate from the intellect, it's just your accumulation of information that you're operating from. And it just strikes me that most of the time we never have quite enough information to really get the job done. Whereas if you just get quiet and just love that person, right? Hold that intent for their highest good, and then see what's prompted in your heart. And I
Yeah.
think, because it may not be, you may think, oh, well, I have something to tell them, or, what can I tell them? How can I help them? Yeah, I mean, that may not be right at all. It might be just like, hey, you know what? Let's go get a cup of coffee. Let's go have a beer and just be with them, love them.
Often don't want necessarily our help or their problem to be solved. They're like in it, and it's offensive to
Yeah,
hey, cheer up, buddy.
and if you operate from your intellect, you're probably going to get it wrong and just going to make things worse or just irritate them more. Right. Whereas if if you just get quiet and listen to your heart and see what you're prompted, what the prompting is in your heart, and it may just be nothing but just spend some time with that person,
Yeah.
because it could be that as much as you would like to get in there and uh, rearrange their operating program for their own good,
You're obviously messed up. Why don't you be more like me?
it's like you got it all wrong. Here's how you got to look at it.
Yeah.
And the more you love the person, the more you just want to do that, because you don't want to wait around for wait
That's
around for
yeah,
the
your
perfect
discomfort is making me really
time.
uncomfortable.
It's like, I gotta help you right now.
Yeah,
And you almost always end up making it worse. Whereas if you
right.
just get quiet enough and just hold the intent for their highest good with love, then usually you get the right promptings on how to do it. And it could be that there's nothing you can do for the person other than just be with them a little bit and just just spend some time, maybe have a meal and just maybe listen to them and let them talk, and sometimes that's it. I mean, I think we'd like to think there's always an answer, and by answer meaning there's always something we can say or do that's going to make it better. And then it may not be the case. It might be that the person has to continue in their difficulties until uh, they can begin to look at things differently.
Yeah.
Well, and
It,
that's hard,
it
especially.
presupposes that we even know what a good place to be at is as well.
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard with loved ones, because you want to make things better. You want to make it better right now.
Yeah.
but that's not always the option. You know, sometimes we have to go through what we have to go through in order to shift in a direction that divinity needs us to shift in, you know, and most of us are really, really hard headed in that we're not letting go of our view of the world easily, you know, and sometimes it just takes divinity to checkmate you in a corner that there's no way out except continue to suffer or change. You know, I mean, think about it. I mean, you know, it's like I remember my youngest, she was like 3, and we were at a Subway, right? And she said, Subboy. I go, no, sweetie, it's not Subboy, it's Subway. She goes, it's Subboy. I go, look, I can read, you can't. It's Subway. She goes, it's Subboy. So, you know, when you find yourself arguing with a 3-year-old, you start feeling a little stupid appropriately. So I finally said, okay, fine, Subboy. And it was Subboy till she could read, and then she saw it was Subway, you know. But I mean, that's just how life is sometimes. Sometimes they're insistent Subboy, and you gotta let them have it because they're not going to give it up. You know, so whether it was Subboy or Subway, we still ordered a sandwich and had lunch. So, you know, that was like a little microcosmic of you're going to experience that a lot in life when you finally get some things right. You know it's right. You want to share it with everybody. Not everybody's interested in what you think is right. They gotta come to their they gotta learn to read and come back and see, oh, it is Subway, right? So and I remember Edgar Cayce had said something years and years ago. He said, in patience ye possess your soul. What do you think about that one? In patience ye possess your soul. Of course you possess your soul, but I think in patience you have a better chance of becoming aware of your deeper self. Right? It's when we're impatient that it just all goes to hell. We're going to push it through or insist or force or whatever. We're going to hammer the person over the head, right? That never works out. Just sometimes you got to just say, okay, it's Subway, and just wait. It may never turn to Subway, you know, maybe not in this lifetime, but you gotta be willing to let people have their free will, you know, and you can make a pitch for something, you know, but you can't insist.
Right.
You gotta, you know, and I think that's the huge difference between that I've observed between the left-hand path and the right-hand path. Right-hand path, it's like after she said it was Subboy the second time, it's like, okay, right? Left-hand path would be start screaming at her and pull out an alphabet and force her will, make her comply and submit. The left-hand path is the path of bending the will of the other and enslaving them to your will, right? The right-hand path, I notice the more advanced somebody is on the right-hand path, just the lightest touch on your free will, just the lightest touch. Yeah. So, you know, I still got a lot of left-hand path tendencies. Yeah, you want to force it through, but that's not God's way. You know, that's not God's way. God is, well, you could say the voice of God within you is just that small, soft voice. Of course, I've had him yell at me a few times, so he gets a little firm sometimes. But usually it's the soft, quiet voice suggesting.
Right.
It's, you know, but of course, then you could say the heavy hand of God. It's not really the heavy hand of God. It's the heavy hand of cause and effect. When cause and effect slam you into a brick wall, you know, you go, God, why are you being so mean to me? Well, it's not God being mean to you. It's just cause and effect in play. And your thoughts, words, and deeds have brought about reactions, and some of them are pretty extreme, you know. But I mean, thank God for the laws of cause and effect, or most of us would never start heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
But cause and effect is set up that the more you got it wrong, the more painful it is.
Well, do you think there's any, because what you just said could really be applied to any person in any place in life. Do you think there's any noticeable differences in what you said versus with someone that was in like shame and depression and up to like that noticeably higher energetic state of like fear and anger, like crazy desire? Just seems like there's a lot more energy in that state versus someone that's shut down from shame and depression.
Well, it's all a result of your view of reality. If your view of reality is incorrect, it's just going to cause a lot of discomfort. However, that discomfort manifests for you, whether it's depression or fear or anger or resentment or jealousy, that's all due to your view of reality. And that's one of the things that I realized a huge part of my teacher's program was correcting your view of reality. Because honestly, it doesn't matter what kind of spiritual experience you have, right? You can have just some amazing cosmic experience, but if when you come back to your normal state, you still have major flaws in your view of what's real, you're going to run into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to run into trouble, so it's like, let's just say you have two people go through a very difficult time, right? If one's view of reality is that this is the result of other people putting you through it, then what's your reaction to that? Well, so if you're aggressive enough, you get angry and you want to hurt them back, right? If you're intimidated, then you become fearful and you want to avoid these people. And I mean, there's all kinds of ways. Well, I would suggest that a higher view, a more correct view, is everything that comes to you in your life is, you could say, from God for your highest good. It's not really directly from God. It's just a law set up in this universe that is designed to reflect back to you, right? So I would say, okay, so if you can begin to look at that as a blessing and there's a lesson within it, and what do you need to learn? You need to learn forgiveness, you need to learn patience, you need to learn courage, and I don't know what the lesson is, right? But my belief is it's a catalyst brought about by the way the system is set up. And that catalyst is a potential stimulus to move you towards a more correct view or awakening, right? That's how I choose to look at it, which, whether it's true or not, actually helps make everything better faster. Whereas if your decision was, okay, I got to get revenge, well, that could start a whole cycle that may never end in this lifetime. Or you get revenge and now they're more angry at you and they recruit their friends. And now you got, instead of one person giving you a bad time, you got 50 people giving you a bad time. So let's up your revenge, and maybe you just start killing people quietly on the side. Well, now you got the police department involved.
Yeah.
And if you manage to avoid them, then they bring in the FBI. So maybe now you got a couple thousand people now are looking to put you in prison. So yeah, you can go that route.
You did it first.
It just looks like it's going to get harder and harder. Right. So you get some highly evolved being like Jesus talks about forgiveness, that kind of short circuits that whole mess. You just forgive them and move on and try to do things positive with your life. Right.
Yeah.
Standing up. I mean, Jesus was no pushover. He stood up against those that were doing harm. Right. But he never harmed them physically. Right. So this is just a playground of cause and effect. So I mean, you can muck around and try to figure it out all on your own, which you probably eventually will. It may take you a long time, or if you have some teachers that you respect, like Jesus or Buddha or whoever, that you thought, well, they've already figured some stuff out, then maybe you can just try some of the solutions they suggested and see if that works better. Right?
So if you're looking at the whole thing, and especially if you start to consider thought systems like the law of one, for example, where it's the law of one, meaning that we're all one. We see differentiations, and we see different people, and we see different goals, but those are all just ideas and judgments. And then forgiveness would be just letting go of those ideas and layers of judgments that we have.
Well, it's letting go of something. I mean, maybe you don't let go of your ideas. Maybe you still think the guy's a jerk, but you're going to let it go because you don't see any other solution that's going to work fairly well. But maybe then at a higher level, forgiveness would be, I realize he's playing a role that's brought by God in order to bring these catalysts. So now you're not only letting it go, you actually might get to the point where you're grateful because this person brought a lesson that when you fully attempted to learn it, helped you advance towards awakening even more. So then that's I think beyond forgiveness. Forgiveness is letting go of insult, right, at some level. But beyond forgiveness is actually realizing it was an important lesson that you needed, and they played the role of being the bad guy actually at a very high price, because usually people bringing misery in other people's lives are usually more miserable than everybody else. So they're paying a heavy price for bringing you that lesson. And that's what my teacher would say. He says, don't hate me when I come to you as an enemy, because I pay a very high price to bring you that lesson. So then that's beyond forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't even needed. If anything, it's gratitude. Thank you so much for paying the heavy price of playing the bad guy in my life, that obviously I needed it or it wouldn't have come to me. So I mean, it depends on your view of reality. I think the closer your view of reality is true, then the less struggle it is to hold on to joy and peace. The more glitches you have in your program, the more you got to struggle with this discomfort, this pain, right? So that's it. I mean, so I think that the highest level would be, okay, so I'm feeling a lot of pain. How am I viewing this wrong? That I just keep having to deal with pain, right? So like if you keep smashing your toe into objects and you go, why am I always limping? It's like, well, maybe I need to wear a pair of shoes and I'll have less pain. So you can constantly be doing first aid on your feet, or you could say, what am I doing wrong that my feet are always hurting? Well, how about wear a pair of shoes? Oh yeah, cut that down quite a bit. So that's it. I think, in life we're dealing at different levels, but we've talked about this before, that I would suggest to you that if life is a constant struggle, you still have some major misconceptions in who you are and why you're here. And the closer you get to truth, it gets easier. There's less mental effort having to be put in for you to be happy. If you're constantly struggling to be happy, constantly struggling with anxiety, constantly struggling, then I would submit to you that you still got some major glitches, right? If somebody treats you in a less than ideal way and you're just angry and now you got to work on suppress your anger, right? Then I would suggest if you could see that as God moving through this person, as this person, it makes it a lot easier to deal with. And it's like, okay, you know what, you're just bringing me to what lesson is I need to learn? I need to be a little more forgiving and see this person as a piece of God playing a necessary role. I may not be crazy about the role, but he's here, so he must be needed, right? So looking at a way that now you become more patient and tolerant of this person. And then if you take it even further, you just say, well, let me look at the good, try to find the good in this person. And you realize, yeah, he's a jerk, but he's very loyal to his friends. It's like, well, that's admirable. You may be a jerk, but you have some really good qualities, and you start to focus on the good qualities. And so that not only changes how you feel about that person, but actually that now showing some love and respect for this person will reflect back from that person. They'll start to feel more like that towards you, and you'll change the relationship.
Interest instantly changes your instantly changes your experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's to me, that's a huge part. And that was a huge part of Baba's teachings was we get constant stimulus. How do you interpret that stimulus has a profound effect on how you experience it, right? So if you have little kids in your household and they're running around and screaming and laughing, and it's like, will you kids calm down? Okay, so now you're trying to change their natural state of just exuberance. Well, good luck riding that, keeping that suppressed all the time. So maybe you manage to suppress them a little bit. It's going to start squeezing out on the edges in some other behavior.
I can confirm that doesn't work.
Yeah. So, so if you reinterpret and just say, you know what, how cool is it? These kids are just happy and so happy that they're just running around screaming out of joy, and you can be happy for them. And you can say, okay, kids, I'm on a call or whatever. Could you take it in the other room? Well, you're not trying to make them feel guilty about just being exuberant little kids. Just you bend it a little bit, but you're not trying to suppress it. So, I mean, it's like trying to build a sandcastle on the sand with the tide coming in. And the waves keep knocking it down, so you keep building higher and higher walls. Well, you're fighting a losing battle. I mean, if you want to do it as a challenge, go ahead. But just realize you're not really in harmony with nature at that point. It might be better to either move further up on the beach or wait for the tide to go out. So, I mean, how much are you struggling every day? Are you trying to build a sandcastle in the rising tide? Are you trying to keep exuberant, healthy, happy children quiet all day? I mean, go ahead, set yourself up for misery if you want.
So another way to put it, you can say, when I resist reality, I lose.
Yeah. But I mean, what's reality? I mean, that's just it. The higher and higher you can take your understanding of reality, then the less suffering there is.
Right.
Yeah. So,
well, the resistance, even though it's not ultimate reality of what I think is reality, that resistance actually creates this other experience, though. It's like my very existence changes my experience.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so I mean, if you look around, you see people that are miserable all the time because their view of what should be is not really possible. So everything is annoying them. On the other hand, you could see people that just, kids go screaming through the house, where they're trying a phone call, and they'll just laugh. It's like, come on, guys, I'm on a call, right? Or they stumble and fall down at the office. A lot of people are embarrassed or angry, and some people just sit on the floor and just laugh their butt off at what just happened. I mean, so if you look around at naturally happy people, naturally joyful people, and look at their way of viewing reality, and look at people that are just miserable all the time, it's what's the difference? Is their life that much different, or is their interpretation of the information coming into their brain different? Well, it's the interpretation. So my teacher would say, you create your universe through how you see it. So that's a huge part of Baba's teaching, is learning to look at the universe in a more and more, I say, real way, right? But even if you don't see, if you say, well, that's not real, well, it's like believing in God. Believing in God takes a lot of the rough edges off of your life. You're not hurtling towards oblivion, that once I'm dead, that's it, it's all over, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you have a sense of, well, ultimately everything is just, if you feel that eventually everybody is responsible for their actions, then that takes sting out of when you see tremendous injustice, right? You say, well, eventually justice will, so whether there is a God or not, the concept of God helps. Helps make this life a little better. So if I die, I go off into oblivion. I cease to exist. Well, I had the crutch of God help me get through this life with a little more sense of humor, a little more joy. So how bad was it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I know God exists, right? But even if he doesn't exist, I think it's a great concept. If your concept of God is a loving, forgiving God, if your concept of God is he's just an angry old man who's going to burn you for every little misstep, then that makes life a lot harder. But my concept of God is infinitely curious, infinitely loving. So I think he's got a sense of humor. So I'm not too scared. Right? But if you're raised in fire and brimstone, well, then I don't know if that makes your life any better. It probably adds a lot of pain into it. So, but this is the power of the human mind. Your thoughts have a profound impact on how you experience your life, right? So if you understand that and you realize you can change your concepts, you can change your concepts.
Yeah, easy.
Right? So,
easier.
Well, it's not easy for a lot of people. They say, well, they don't believe that they're dealing with concepts. They believe they're dealing with a reality. It's not a concept. It's how it is.
Yeah.
It's
Which
like,
makes
okay,
it invisible
well,
at that
then
point.
that's your concept.
Right.
Locks in your concepts. But if you realize, I mean, look around all different humans and all different cultures and all the different concepts. It's like, so you're the only one that's right. Everybody else is wrong. Yes. It's like, okay, the conversation ended. But if you think, well, no, well, then, okay, maybe some of these other concepts, take a look at. Are there any of the concepts that you kind of like? Yeah. Well, would it make your life a little better? Okay. Yeah. Well, why don't you try operating from that concept? And once you start realizing that your concepts have a profound effect on what you're experiencing and you can change them, oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it's a big concept to even let yourself believe that you can consider other concepts. That was a big one for me, man. I thought I was going to be in a danger of hellfire for a number of things, right? It was a long list, and so it kept me locked in a box and unwilling to consider.
But that's the beauty and that's the trap of being a human. That mind is so powerful. And I think a lot of the quote unquote powers that be realized this a long time ago and just start programming massive amounts of people with the concepts they want to achieve what they want to achieve with those people. Right? I mean, yeah, human beings are incredibly programmable. Right? And one of the most powerful programs is to hide the fact that they've been programmed. Right. You're not programmed. That's reality. Right. What I've taught you is what is. Everybody else is wrong, and they'll probably burn in hell for it. So don't you dare change it. Don't you change it one little bit, or you'll burn in hell too. Right? So not only you've programmed them with your program, and now you lock them into your program with a door lock of fear. And so when you see human beings, when you finally get out of that room and you feel so much more free and so much better and so much happier, you want to go kick the door in for everybody that's locked in, but they're holding that door. It's like, no, don't kick this door in. It's like, well, then you got to let them be. It's not your right to kick people's doors in.
Yeah. Which is another concept on the other side.
Yeah, as much as you want to say, I'm rescuing you, I'm saving you. You're in prison. It's like, no, this is my protective wall. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that's a concept. To see people stuck in a concept, to think that I need to change their concept. That's a concept.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's just another concept. Well, it's the concept of rescuing.
Right.
You got to rescue you from that, right? It's like, no, you don't. You know, you can offer. It's like, I got a key for the door. Would you like me to crack it open a little bit? It's like, okay.
Okay.
Come back in 10 years, I'll ask you.
Right.
You know, you got to be willing to let people think and be the way they choose to be. And that's hard, especially if you believe they're suffering needlessly. But I don't know if there's any such thing as needless suffering.
Yeah.
I think it's designed that you suffer the appropriate amount for what your programming is. And if you come to me and you say, I want to be happier, and could you tell me how to do? Okay, yeah, I'll do that. But on the other hand, if you're just living your, it's like I'd be walking around in the gym, and I'm pretty educated on working out properly, right? And I'd see people doing some of the stupidest crap. And you just want to say, you are doing that all wrong. Here's how to, there's nothing more annoying than somebody coming up to you while you're working out to butt in with their 2 cents. It's like, who asked you, dude?
That's
Leave
right.
it alone, right?
Yeah,
so I mean, but
uninvited advice.
Yeah, uninvited. So I mean, it's the same thing. It's you got to be willing. You can offer gently, subtly, but if they're not willing to take it, it's like, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, that's it, man. Ran out of time.
Ran out of time. All right, brother. Well, I'm glad we finally did another one, right? I'm sure people have just been chomping at the bit for the next one.
I know that the outrage in the community has been
the phone calls and the emails.
It's been hard to keep up with. I'm like, fine, right. Okay.
Right.
They're like, we need to reveal where David is. I'm like, I can't reveal my source.
So anyway, all right. Well, good question. I hope hope it helped somebody. That are 2 people that are watching. Mom and Dad, hope you enjoy it.